with millions of educators around the world, all with their own ideas and their own passions, we don't always get to hear some of those key ideas from some of the smaller voices in our community. So here's an opportunity for some of those voices to put their ideas forward and to share them in small, bite-sized pieces. Welcome to Ed Talk Sessions. So this show is all about giving people an opportunity, educators an opportunity to share their ideas based on experiences with other educators around the world in these small bite-sized 5-minute or so videos that they have pre-recorded to share with us. And I'm hoping that they're going to be joining us in the live chat so any of the viewers can interact with them whilst the show is going on. So this is our second Ed Talk Sessions. I'm going to be joined with the creator and primary educator Toria Bono, creator of Tiny Voice Tuesdays Unites, my mistake, who's going to be helping me bring some of these voices into the show. It's all about 5-minute talks by educators for educators. We have sessions by Lucy Griffiths, Maria Richards, Hedreich Nichols, Amy Patel Hopkins, Ashley Green, Naomi Toland, Barbara Bray, Paul Hume, Cornell Ellis, and Michael Lipset. So let's hop over and see Toria. Toria, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Evo?
Yeah, I'm good. How are things in Worthing, England?
Yes, they were very rainy earlier, but we're okay now. All is well. What about you in Dubai?
Well, I mean, the sun's pretty much always shining in Dubai. Another great day. Sun's just about set right now. It's 7 p.m. here. It's 3 p.m. where you are?
Yes, 3:03 at this precise moment.
3:03 at this precise moment. So, who do we have on the show today?
Well, you have done the lineup. So we've got a number of exciting people from around the world, and I believe we are starting with Lucy Griffiths.
Maria Richards is going to be going next with The Power of Teaching Words.
And then Hedreich Nichols. I've only got the list of people, Evo, so if you've got all the names of what they're doing, right, okay, I can now see it. We've got Amy Patel Hopkins, I didn't have that slide, with how do we dismantle the oppressive system of education, Ashley Green, 3 C's to plant in your wellbeing garden, Naomi Toland, things I've learned through travel and international teaching, which I know many people are very interested in. We then have Bray, connect to your why, so important. Paul Hume, how to develop your leadership in 3 ways. Cornell Ellis, 3 ways, again, it's all about the 3-3-3. 3 ways to increase black male representation in schools. And finally, Michael Lipset, with sound practice, audio exercises for equity in education and design. So a really exciting lineup.
It is, and these guys are like from all over the world, right? So it's great to actually see people from all over the world like connecting and sharing their ideas. We're going to kick off with, if I can just get this right, we're going to kick off with our very first speaker. So let me come out of that mode here. Lucy Griffiths, how to develop a culture of reading for pleasure. Take it away, Lucy.
Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Griffiths. I am a primary school teacher. I teach year 5 and I am also the English coordinator at my school. And over the last quite a few years, I've been starting to develop my role as the English coordinator and done lots of things with writing across the school, but my real passion, I would say, is reading for pleasure and getting children to read. As a child, I just found that I could escape to different worlds, and for me that was such an important thing in my life that I just always wanted to pass that on. I'm a mother of a almost 17-year-old who I was very excited to be a mum and to read books, and to my absolute devastation, he hates reading. So I definitely try to get my fix of trying to get children to read for pleasure from other people's children, and that's what I try and do at the school that I'm at. I've always loved being I always have loved being read to, and particularly by teachers. I always love school. I love being read to. I love that feeling of just sort of like getting lost and not having to concentrate on the words, but just listen to a story. And I know for lots of children that find mechanical reading and taking in what's happening within a story difficult, being read to by an adult or another is actually really important. And when we've done our book studies and things where we've just really studied a book in depth, the comprehension skills that children get from being read to is pretty outstanding. And I am a real advocate for reading every day to your class, and that should be a non-negotiable, and that's what we do now across the school. I think as a teacher it's my job to understand about different authors and what new books are coming out, and so I probably read more children's literature than I do adult literature, but again, for me that's really important so I can share with the children what they like to do. In my school, how I've developed that culture for reading is introducing a few different initiatives. So we have a reading raffle, so every week the children have a reading record which we take in on a Friday, and if they've read 5 times or more and it's been signed by a parent, or if they're an upper junior they've sort of like established for themselves whether they've read, they get entered into a reading raffle. So we've got a box in the hall and you pull out the raffle ticket in the Friday assembly and they win a book. And it's been an amazing initiative. The children are desperate to win. You see them in assembly sort of like, is it me, is it me, is it me? And what we're going to next do is we're going to get a vending machine so that we can have that in the hall so the children can go and choose a book, which I think is really exciting. I've seen that on a few things on Twitter. It's just finding a machine that's cheap enough with school budgets. So I'm on the case at the moment. We also have reading targets. So a child will, in the morning, the children will bring me their books, their reading records, and I will give them a target. So I'll say to the child, how many pages by when? So they might say 30 pages by Thursday, and they get 30,000 house points. If they do that within the time, they then get bonus house points. And that for me is a game changer in year 5. That sort of like regular reading, that competitiveness with themselves, those house points all feed into that regular reading, trying different genres, trying different recommendations from me, and it's amazing the difference. And I think you really develop a reading habit then when you have all these things that are on offer. Inviting authors into the school has been huge. For children to see real life authors, talking to them, interacting with them, working with them, it's been phenomenal. Maz Evans on Charlie Ralph, Jeremy Strong, they've all visited the school, and the excitement from the children has been amazing. We dress up in role in our school quite a lot. And so when the children hear there's a visitor, like, oh God, here's Mrs. Griffiths again, who's she going to be today? But to have an actual real life author has been amazing. I love to interact with authors on Twitter as well, and often I will share with an author something that's happened in my class or a book we're sharing, and if I get a tweet back, I'll often print off the photo from my phone and I'll stick it in the children's reading record, because again, there's that interaction and building relationships with real, really talented people, and they get so excited by that. So I'm just flicking through my notes. I also run a bookworm group. So with year 6, I have a collection of about 40 different books, and we meet weekly, we have competitions, we go on a visit to the British Library in times before COVID, we visit the largest bookshop in Europe and buy a book. We have, I've got a beach hut, and so we meet and have like reading around the fire pit with marshmallows and s'mores and hot chocolate, which is amazing. And we share our recommendations. It's a really lovely group. I think sometimes as a teacher you can get caught up in, I've got to do this and I've got to do that, but actually interacting with the children and doing those things, that's why I got into this job. It's amazing. And also teachers as readers. I am passionate about reading and I'm always happy to give any recommendations, but also I'm really keen to share that passion and that knowledge across the school. And as teachers, I'm really excited that lots of them have now got involved in reading lots of literature and sharing ideas and reading every day, and all of us are on the same page. And I think as a school, if you can all do this, it makes life really much easier. And I would say that reading at my school has really become a priority, and rather than just we need to do reading comprehension, we need to do this, we need to do that, we actually do really enjoy reading for pleasure. And to be honest, that's what it's all about. If you can create a habit that lasts a lifetime and takes you through tough times, and you see yourself represented in stories, and you learn about empathy and compassion and kindness, that's what it's all about. That's what we're in this job for. So I hope how I feel about reading for pleasure has come across. I hope some of those initiatives are new to you, or things that you might do, and I hope I haven't waffled on too much. But thank you so much for listening. I'm sure nobody is, it's just me. Yeah, keep on reading, peeps, keep on reading.
What a very inspiring message from Lucy. Toria, what did you think about that?
Well, I love Lucy, and I've been to her school, and they do dress up lots. They really do. And she does live and breathe what she's talking about, which I think is fabulous. It's so important. Reading for pleasure, I think, is vital to our young people, because actually we need to equip them so that they go through life with that absolute skill. But it's what's important, I think, is that we consider what texts we give our children. And actually, you know, if Fishman's Weekly is what they want to read, that's what we need to be giving them. We really need to be engaging them with texts that they truly love.
Absolutely. And I just think listening to somebody like Lucy, she's just so genuine about the message, you know, and reading and writing literacy in general is just so important, especially in this day and age where video seems to have taken over, right? So, yeah, thank you for your message, Lucy. Thank you for everyone who's tuning in and listening to us. Our next speaker is Maria Richards, The Power of Teaching Words. Maria, take it away.
Hello, my name's Maria Richards and I'm a freelance education consultant with a specialism in literacy. I'm also a Talk for Writing consultant and trainer. Today I'm here to talk to you about the power of words. Now, the world of education knows the importance of vocabulary. It knows that the size of a student's vocabulary can be a key indicator to their future academic success. It also knows that poor vocabulary can be the primary cause of academic failure. So, if words and vocabulary are so important, what should we do about it? Well, we should teach it. And we should teach it explicitly and regularly to broaden and deepen our students' vocabulary. And all the things I'm going to show you are based on Bringing Words to Life, the brilliant book by Isabel Beck and friends. So first, choose the words you want to teach. Take a look at the model you are using, whether that be in writing, in reading, or across the curriculum, and identify the words you're going to teach explicitly. Then make them visual. Simply choose a picture to go with that word, alongside a child-friendly definition. And in essence, you can create a vocabulary poster, which can be displayed on a working wall, on a washing line, but is there as a constant point of reference. Next, rehearse those words. Orally practice the meaning of the word and the word itself. And this can be as part of a vocabulary lesson or can just be dropped in as and when you are using that word in context with the children. So for example, let's imagine that we have learnt the word ancient. Well, ancient is one of the words that I have chosen to linger with. So you would have already seen this word on my vocabulary poster. Perhaps I've used a picture like this. Then when I'm using the word with you, I may say something like ancient. Okay, ancient is something that is very, very old. And then I would turn to the class and say, ancient is, and the children would repeat, something that is very, very old. And then I would say, something that is very, very old is, and the children would say, ancient. So quite a simple routine. Let's give it a go ourselves now. So I'll say the first bit, you repeat the second bit back. Are you ready? Ancient. Ancient is something that is very, very old. Ancient is, something that is very, very old is, and there we go. Orally rehearsing the definitions of our words. Finally, the key to really remembering our words is not just to look at them once or a few times, at least 6 to 10 times. For some children, at least 20 times in different contexts. So the message is we need to keep revisiting those words and their definitions. And so what we want to achieve is multiple interactions with those words. And here are a few ways that you could do that. You could ask the children to draw their own pictures to help them to remember the meanings of those words. You could ask them to identify an example or a non-example. You could ask them to finish a sentence so they really show the meaning of that word. And you could ask them to review their learning. Does the word mean this or this? So that leaves me with one last thing to say. Remember, the amount of vocabulary that you know has nothing to do with how clever you are. It's simply whether you've been exposed to those words. So let's really focus on broadening and deepening children's vocabulary at every and any opportunity. I hope that's been useful. I've been Maria Richards, and you can find me on Twitter, my website, or with my Talk for Writing colleagues. Thanks for listening.
Oh, what's just happened now? Oh no. Hold on 1 second. There we go. So, Maria, really inspiring with what you just shared. Toria, what do you think?
That woman has taught me so much. So much of what I do in my classroom on a daily basis has been inspired by Maria. It really has. She is fantastic, an absolutely phenomenal trainer. And so I live and breathe. Everything that she's just shown you is what I do. I live and breathe it in my classroom. It is so, so vital. We need to expose children to words again and again and again.
We're hitting that note again, guys, aren't we, about literacy, the importance of literacy. And there are research studies, as you know, Toria, that relate literacy to further success in life. And we're seeing more and more children around the world who are becoming more literate, particularly females in Asia who previously were not given opportunities to be educated. So very much so. Very much a global issue, this literacy thing. So the next person who is up is Hedreich Nichols. She's going to be sharing a story, Let the Lion Tell His Own Story. Hedreich, take it away.
Hello and welcome. I'm super happy to be able to talk to you here on Ed Talks Live. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the lion. The name of this session is Let the Lion Tell His Own Story. Generally, we think of history as almost starting kind of with Western classical civilization, classical, In my house, I have a house of musicians. I'm the 5th generation musician. My son's a musician, and that's kind of like what we do. So what I have always thought was that the only classical composers I know are old men with powdered wigs from Germany, France, Russia, and Austria. I think that we need to expand our ideas about what we call classical education and realize that mostly the historians have glorified their own. And as we look for stories that are not only from Western European societies or societies colonized by Western Europeans, then we find a rich heritage that we don't know so much about. So I would like to encourage you to ask yourself this question. Who else was there? In the 1700s, when the United States was being framed, who else was there? What else was going on? Queen of England, Cleopatra are the great women that we think of when we think of great female leaders, but there were many. There were civilizations that were completely run by females. And so ask yourself, who else was there? If your history is telling you what was going on in one particular society, what was going on somewhere else? What was going on? And who else was there? And consider how much of our curriculum for those times is focused on people who come from European descent. For point 2, to do that, you'll need to find primary sources. Again, the Hunter's historian is pretty strong, so it is sometimes difficult to find the traditions and histories from societies who are used to passing on their histories orally. Find primary sources. It may take a little digging, but the Library of Congress, for example, is an absolutely amazing resource. You can find those. You can find first-person documents. We're talking actual documents signed and scanned in, so check them out. PBS is also a great place to find stories that we might not usually hear. NPS, the National Park Service, who would have thunk it? You can actually find a wealth of resources. So those are my favorite 3, the ones that they're kind of my go-to resources. So I would advise you, even if you are outside of the States, go ahead and check out and see what you find. My last point is, don't be afraid of a rabbit hole. A rabbit hole is an amazing thing. If you are working with students, you don't have to be the source of information for your kids. That's what you want them to do. Once you choose a theme, have your kids follow their own learning. Send your kids to those places so that they themselves can follow the learning. It should be learning that doesn't have a clear destination. Ask them to ask themselves, hey, who else was there? When kids do follow their own learning, you'll find that there's a buzz of excitement in the room. And don't let it stop there. Invite your parents, invite other teachers on your staff, invite other kids to come in so that you can have a gallery walk. And they can then become historians that pass on traditions that you don't remember to go and find. All right, so let me say it again. Remember, until lions have their historians, tales of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. So I want to challenge you to go and find those other stories, document those other stories, pass on those other stories, share those other stories. Thanks. This has been Hedreich Nichols, author, educator in North Texas, and host of Small Bites.
So, Hedreich telling the story with such tenacity and passion. Toria, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, that was a little bit inspirational, wasn't it? That was phenomenal. I mean, honestly, I love that. I've written notes. Tales of the hunter will always glorify the hunter. Follow the learning and always, always ask, who else was there? So important. You know, our history has been written by our historians. We need to ensure that we aren't just following what we're being told, but actually finding out more. So, wow, completely inspired. Thank you, Hedreich.
Hedreich, thank you very much for that. Really inspiring. Obviously, we get to connect sometimes, and she's always inspiring with the things that she says. So thanks again. Next up is Amy Patel Hopkins. Amy Patel Hopkins is going to be sharing the idea of how we dismantle the oppressive system of education. Take it away, Amy.
Welcome, my name is Amy Patel Hopkins. I go by the pronouns she and her, and I teach 5th and 6th grader science at the School District of Philadelphia. Today, I am coming to you from my virtual classroom, and I am very grateful for this opportunity and excited to share with you. If you're inspired by anything I said, or if it resonates with you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. My Twitter is @PatelPhilly, and I am so happy to connect with people, so please don't hesitate. So as I said in my intro, 2020 was a year of real hurt, reflection, and creation. And today I'm really going to focus on the creation part, but in the hurt part, I was also very inspired by divine inspiration as I went through bouts of trauma, grief, and continue to deal with living and teaching and learning in a global pandemic and dealing with the continued systemic injustice. But the divine inspiration is my student Chekna, who passed away the second week of school, who was a big part of my school community. Representative John Lewis, Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Chadwick Boseman, and then the tools I've created were inspired. The interactive notebook was inspired by Nellie, who was a teacher resident with me 2 years ago, and also Dr. Joy, who is a mentor and is an anti-racist STEAM educator around the community agreements of justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. So first of all, when we come into my classroom, we call it the PhD Galaxy, and we take on the identity of citizen scientists. And so every day we embrace, elevate, and empower each other. When we embrace, elevate, and empower each other, we release our inner Asha. Asha means hope in the language I speak, and so in addition to English, and so we release our inner hope. And then we have our inner Asha tools, which are forgiveness, empathy, love, and hope. And so you see the essential questions associated with each one of those. And those norms, those community agreements of justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. How can we as citizen scientists use the norms of justice, equity, diversity, inclusion every day? And so all of this, and that was a quick overview. And we also, before we can focus on the mind, we really got to do a check-in on the body and heart. And so every day when we come into the PhD Galaxy, we do a check-in with each other on our body and heart. And then we can really focus in on the mind as together as a community of learners. And so on my website, under the curriculum tab, you will see right here the slides, the interactive notebook, the check-in, and feel free to borrow any of that and reach out to me if you want more information on any of that, because today was just a quick overview. And in the final minute, I want to leave you with 2 questions. One is, what has education become? Like, what do you think education has become? And the second question is, are you happy with what it has become? And if not, what are you going to do to manifest the education system that you want? Everything I have been doing, everything I've been creating, I really, as I said, been turning fire into light, and that's because I want to manifest a better world, not only for my many students, but also for my son, who's 3.5 years old. These are all students that I love dearly, and so I want to manifest a better world for them. And so every day is a day of creation to get closer to that world for them. So thanks for listening to me today. I'm really am grateful to have had the opportunity to share with you. And please don't hesitate to reach out and go manifest away. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. I just love how creative Amy is with the spin that she's put on things. So it's very child-friendly, this idea of using illustrations, the future, and like almost projecting the idea that we can become a lot more diverse with the way that we see things and a lot more equal from an educational standpoint of view. Toria, what did you take away from it?
Embrace, elevate, empower. That gives us hope, which leads to equity, justice, diversity, and inclusion. And I think it is absolutely what you're saying. That creative way is what will ensure that our children begin to live in a different world and the world that they deserve.
Yeah. 100%.
So up next, Evo, very, very exciting, we've got Ashley Green. And Ashley Green is talking about 3 seeds to plant in your wellbeing garden. And I cannot wait, because my wellbeing garden is feeling a little bit lack at the moment after a very tiring half term. So I cannot wait to hear what 3 seeds I need to plant. So off you go, Ashley, and let me know.
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley. I'm a teacher, positive psychology practitioner and an author. I have a huge passion for wellbeing and education, but not just for the students, but also for the grown-ups that work in the schools with the students. So this little video is only really briefly to let me help you plant some seeds in the garden of wellbeing in your life. The term wellbeing is becoming more and more popular. We hear the word wellbeing everywhere. There's mindfulness colouring books in every bookshop, and some of the supermarkets even have wellbeing aisles with herbal tea and all those lovely things. But there's a lot more hard science behind your well-being. Also, well-being isn't something that just happens to you. Well-being is something that you need to put a little effort into, the same way you would if you're going to the gym to exercise your body and your muscles. The first well-being seed I'd like to plant for you is thinking about feelings and emotions. This must seem like a really simple one, but actually talking about our feelings and emotions with people that we trust is really important for our mental health. Quite often we bottle things up inside, or we just keep going and often think that there are people much worse off than ourselves. And although that can be the case, it doesn't do us any good for our well-being to deny the feelings and emotions that we're experiencing. So not only is it really important to celebrate the moments of joy and try and savour them, but it's also really important to recognise when your feelings and emotions are making you feel a bit down. Now remember, there's no bad emotions. Any feelings you experience are valuable. A really good book recommendation that I would support is Emotional Agility by Susan David. This gives us a real insight to the value of recognising and knowing all the different emotions that we experience. This is also really important for the students in our care. Now, as I'm a primary teacher, my book is a children's book and it's also got some beautiful illustrations. But there's also so many stories such as The Colour Monster, my book, The Emo Beans and Feelings, and lots of other children's literature that can help open that conversation about feelings and emotions for students. The second seed that I'd like to plant for you is about character strengths. Character strengths are often said to be the beating heart of the positive psychology field. Professor Martin Seligman and Professor Christopher Peterson, alongside 55 other scientists, took on a 3-year project where they categorised the different virtue literature that they'd read all the way back from Aristotle times, and they studied different groups of people across the world. This 3-year project resulted in the VIA character strengths, a classification of 24 character strengths under 6 virtues that all human beings have. You can visit viacharacter.org and take part in a questionnaire that can arrange your character strengths for you. You can see which is your top signature strength, your top 5 strengths, all the way down to number 24. Character strengths in education is another huge component of the character strengths concept. It's fantastic to introduce even very young children to the character strengths. Quite often children are able to talk about their talents and they're able to talk about the things they're good at, but what's really lovely is when you hear them talking about their strengths, such as my top strength is kindness, my top strength is leadership. So if you think about a school that all the children are able to talk about strengths, as well as the teachers and the parents think of that language that's threaded throughout the ecology of a whole school, and it's beautiful. The third little wellbeing seed I'd like to plant in this short session is creativity. There is so much joy in creativity and innovation. How often do we ever really give ourselves time to be truly creative? So many times in school I hear so many teachers say and so many adults say, "Oh, I can't draw, I'm not very good at art." It's one of those lessons that can often be quite daunting for teachers. So using creativity in your day-to-day lessons and giving children the opportunity to be creative is wonderful. But also my top tip would be give yourself time to be creative. When's the last time that you had a play and coloured just scribbles on a page? See what you can come up with in a blank page. Of course, artwork isn't the only way to improve your well-being. You can be creative through song, through drama, music, a million different things. But being creative and savouring the moment is something that can really enhance your well-being. Thanks for watching my short video. I hope these 3 well-being seeds are easily planted in your garden of well-being. Do let me know how you get on, and good luck.
Ashley's also someone who appears on the show a lot as well. Great tips there, Toria. What do you think?
Oh, I love them. I mean, I'm all about creativity. I absolutely love being creative and developing that. Desperate to go and do this questionnaire, though, to find out what my character strengths are. Have you done it yet?
I haven't actually done it, no. Although I have met up with Ashley and we did speak about it.
What do you think your top character strength is?
Probably not a good idea to ask me that right now, to be honest. I'm all over the place. I mean, you guys probably wouldn't know this, but my well-being had crashed, hadn't it, before the show. So all sorts of little changes. But yeah, possibly. Yeah, possibly. How about yourself?
I don't know. That's why I want to go and do it, because, I mean, honestly, I think, if I'm honest, my character strengths probably change on a daily basis depending on what I'm actually facing at that precise moment. I'm not sure, but I'm fascinated to go and have a go at it. I really am, but I absolutely loved those 3 seeds. So, do you want to know who's up next? Well, you do know, because you're about to click the video, but I'm going to tell everyone else. So, up next is our own Naomi Toland, and she is discussing things that she's learned through travel and international teaching, which I know loads of people will be fascinated in. So, over to you, Naomi.
Hello there, welcome on board Adventure Airways. I'm your cabin host, Naomi Toland, and today we're going to be looking at things I've learned through travel and international teaching. How might it help you take the leap to go and do international teaching, or how does it relate to the future of education? So I have spent the past, all my life really, traveling, but really the past 7 years traveling all across the world. I've taught in London. I moved there in 2014. I taught in New Zealand. I moved there in 2017, 18, and then I've recently just moved to Japan to start an international school. So I want to share my takeaways and what I've learned from that experience so far. These are the 6 pillars that drive empathetic educators. Through my research, through my experiences, I think growth, relationships, accountability, challenge, systems and perspectives are just so important for us in education and in life in general. So I think your power is within your grasp, which is all 6 of these things. For the purpose of this segment today, I just want to focus on growth, relationships and challenge. So welcome on board and let's go for it. Welcome to Growth Garden. So Growth Garden and growth I think are really important because, like this quote says, your mind is the garden, your thoughts are the seeds. You can grow flowers or you can grow weeds. So your power is within your growth. I think this really resonates with me because in my first year of teaching when I moved to London, I really put a lot of pressure on myself. A lot of teachers who I talk to, and many of us think that we have to get everything perfect and we have to get everything right. And learners who have experienced, they want to get everything right as well. But throughout my travel, throughout my experience, I think growth is just so important because it helps us see where we are and accept that instead of expecting ourselves to always be okay. growth allows us to see where we are and accept that, and then see what the next stages are. So growth for me is really important. Our next stage is relationships restaurant. So welcome to that area. And I think this is probably one of the biggest important parts of travel, but also important parts of our classroom, of our life, because a lot of people say to me, oh, I can't go away because I don't want to leave my family. I can't go away because of this, because of that. And a lot of times it comes down to relationships. And don't get me wrong, it's been a journey for me, and there are days whenever I really, really miss my family, miss my friends, miss home. But the more that I've been away, the more I realize that relationships can grow and flourish even when you're not side by side. And actually, sometimes they can grow and flourish even more than if you were side by side. Because for me, I really try. My mom would say probably that I don't talk to them enough. But I really try and at least once a week make that connection and share my journey and share my experiences with them. So people inspire you or they drain you, pick them wisely. And I think that quote really resonates. So if someone's trying to hold you back, or someone's not letting you be you or let you do what you want to do, why is that? And what does that mean for your future? What does that mean for you? So are they positive relationships? Are you being positive in your relationship? So just reflecting on that and seeing how you can bring positivity and bring inspiration to your relationships, and how you can get that from people who you surround yourself with as well. And finally, the area we're going to talk about is challenge. Now, this is my favorite part of travel. It's all challenge. It's all new. It's all exciting, but also challenge can be a scary thing as well. So life is a challenge, meet it. Life is a dream, realize it. Life is a game, which is why we're in challenge championship area. Play it. And life is love, enjoy it. So I think ever since I've left and started in London, I've really tried, instead of being scared of challenge, I've tried to face it. And each year I've set myself goals. So how can you set yourself goals? It might not even be to move country. It might just be some challenges that you have in your own life. How can you set them? So in 2017, it was to do my PADI course. So I was diving in the Galapagos, which never would have happened if I hadn't got over my initial fear of actually going underwater and going to those depths. And then last year, my challenge was having an MMA fight, so getting in a cage and actually fighting someone, which I literally can't believe that happened either. So setting myself challenges, how can you do that to appreciate and grow yourself? Going back to that idea of growth. So that really relates into our next season of common seasons of Empathetic Educators, and as you can see, there's growth in relationships in our season 2, and you can find out more about how we can learn more and how we can do more together by going onto the blog, which you can see, which will be on the link in this session as well. And a big part of it is that global light unites. So relationships, like we said, are so foundational. So as part of this, my message that I'm trying to send out to the world, we have our little perspective panda, and you can see Craig Kemp has already got that, which is amazing. But I'm really trying to promote that idea of relationships across the world. So if you don't have those people cheering you on, maybe in your school or in your community, how can you find that community online? And I'm trying to promote that positivity with our perspective panda, sharing those elements with each other. And as part of Empathetic Educators, you are in with a chance. Let's go back to this part. Section 3, each season has games and challenges, and the winner gets in with a chance of actually interviewing the guest. So this guest will be George Couros on the 6th and 5th of December. If you're interested in joining that, you can go onto the Empathetic Educators app. So you will see, if you're looking on your phone, it'll allow you to actually download that MP app on there. So all the episodes and all the sessions will be coming up on it. But also on the blog, it shows you how you can sign up to a blog post and the chance of winning the opportunity to talk to George on our live webinar. We're going to show you what the question is and fill in the session there as well. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to just the growth, relationships, and the challenge. How can you bring into your education, but also how can you bring those into your own life as well? Look forward to growing together, and make sure to check out season, which is getting released on the 25th of October. Look forward to connecting. Bye.
Oh, I mean, I can't keep up with Naomi, to be honest. She just seems to be doing so many things, and that's the first time I've actually found out that she's done a little bit of what is it? MMA, mixed martial arts. Like, full of surprises, Toria.
She is, and it's. I'm going to do a shameless plug here because I recently interviewed her for my podcast, Tiny Voice Talks, and it was fascinating learning all about her early career and going to London and where, you know, what exactly she'd had to face at that point, and what has made Naomi the person, the empathetic educator that she is. And the thing that I also love is the fact that, you know, she is all about relationships. And again, another shameless plug, I'm all about relationships. You're all about relationships. You know, I created hashtag Tiny Voice Tuesday Unites because it is so important for us to connect. I think it's great for our well-being. It's so good for us as educators to connect with one another. And if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be sitting here today, really.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's true. And, you know, if you consider the connections we have with people like Naomi. I'm based out in Dubai. You're based out in Worthing, UK, and she's based out in Tokyo, Japan.
At the moment.
So, I mean, you know, the Twitter sphere has brought us together, and we've kept ourselves going. And there's so many other people, really, isn't there, who are part of this network. So, Toria, thank you so much for sharing your story, and I'm really excited about empathetic educators. Just that it's so innovative, this whole idea of like being on board and then traveling with her. And so, great job, Naomi, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Did you want to go with who's next?
Yes, because I'm all ready. Look, I've got my phone ready. I'm getting into this.
There's no stopping you now.
Yeah, so next up is Barbara Bray, and she is going to tell us how to connect with our why, which I'm rather excited about, actually. So, Barbara, take it away.
Hi, everyone. I'm Barbara Bray. I talked to Evo Hannan, and he asked me if I could do a 5-minute video on connecting to your why. I said, sure. I wrote a book, Define Your Why, and it was all about owning your story so you can live and learn on purpose. Well, guess what? It launched in February 2020, and a month later, we had a worldwide pandemic. So what happened? Well, this is what everyone I talked to felt like and looked like. So I said, you know, our why might have changed. Maybe what we need to do is redefine our why during uncertain times because we just don't know what's going to happen. So I want to talk about relationships, self-care, and embracing grace. You see, relationships, they're like the gateways to our heart. We need that heart work before the hard work. That's a quote from Dr. Basil Marin. And with teachers, you know, we've been trying to do what we do face to face and do it online. I think we need to do more compassion over compliance. This is tough. And I've heard from so many teachers and parents, students, that we have to do something about it. So what I've been doing is asking these questions. How are you today? What are you doing to take care of you? And for some people, how is everything at home? And then I asked administrators to ask this. Ask your teachers, what support do you need? I asked myself this and realized I needed more. I was going through a lot. Just after I think about 6 weeks, I hit a real tough time. I felt like my cup was actually not even half full. I was really having a tough time. So I know we had to put our masks on. And then I decided I'm going to put my mask on, but I'm going to look good. A lot of us are having a tough time. So we have to figure out, how can we take care of ourselves? What are some of the things we can do? And then we can have that empathy for us when we're going through times like this. So one of the things I remember mentioning to my husband, boy, I just don't know. I've done this, I've done that. He says, you know, each of those are a lesson and a blessing. It's a blessing. I went, a blessing? So I looked it up and found out that this is a quote that I love. What if we look at things that are happening to us as a blessing and talk to our kids that way? So what I started doing is looking at my life. My mind was so full of worry and scared. I was fearful of the future, of not having a future, and the worry that I wasn't enjoying the moments. So I learned some mindfulness strategies. I went from mindful to mindful. I started stopping to breathe more, deep breaths. So every 20 minutes, I have a timer to stop doing my work so I can take care of myself. I even put on music and dance. And in the process, all this time, I said, you know, I might as well try a new diet. I need to take care of me. I've lost 14 pounds. So what about you? What can you do during this time for you? A new language or playing the piano? Just think of some of the things you can do. Because each of those little things, you're going to look back and say, those were the big things. The times I got to do a FaceTime with my child, or be able to have one-on-one with some child in my class that was having some trouble. Remember those moments. They're all teachable, but those are the things you'll remember. You see, we need gratitude for us. We need to embrace the grace and love us. So what I do is I have a gratitude jar and I write a note. I try to do it every morning, but during that bad time, I stopped. I stopped my journal. I stopped all of that. I brought it back and I write a gratitude note, put it in the jar. And at the end of the week, I pull out a note. And sometimes it's just like, I wrote that? That's so cool. So small seeds of gratitude will produce a harvest of hope for something to you look forward to. So I'd love to thank you for all of this time just to learn from you. I'm so lucky. I have a podcast. I get to learn from people. I have reflections. I've met so many people on social media, but also I'm connecting more than ever. I've been doing workshops. So think about you. Redefine your why through relationships, self-care and empathy for you. Embrace grace and have hope. And check out my website. I have all the podcasts on there, and I'd love to know what you think of my book. So thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you how to connect to your why. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Barbara. I mean, I don't know if a lot of you guys know, but I've known Barbara for quite a while now, and I was meant to catch up with her in April, but with COVID hitting globally, the flights were cancelled and so on. But she's just someone who endures, and she just keeps going and going. Podcast has gone over 100 episodes, constantly connects with people, constantly tunes into Ed Talks Live. Big supporter of yours, Toria. And the little quote, small seeds of gratitude will produce a harvest of hope. Toria.
Oh, she's just such a lovely soul. And the chat in YouTube has just been like, what a lovely soul. Isn't she lovely? You know, she is gorgeous. And I love what she said about blessing. And I actually looked that quote up and it said, my new word, blessing. It's when you're able to view painful lessons as blessings. In other words, a blessing is what happens when you see the blessing in the lesson that your challenge taught you. And she reminded me as well of a game that I haven't played for a while, actually. It's a really nice one to play with little people.
Yeah.
But it's called the gratitude game.
Okay.
And it's basically the gratitude alphabet. And it's very simple. So I'm going to start. We don't need to go to Z, but we'll just have a go. I'm grateful for apples. Yours is B.
I'm grateful for my blessings today.
Fantastic. I'm grateful for my cats.
Really? Anyway, that's a whole different conversation about cats. But and then it goes back and
you
forth.
go through, and it's a really nice one to play with little people.
Yeah.
But it's also a really good one that if you're feeling stressed in a moment, actually just going through your gratitude alphabet, going A, B, C, D, E, it just centers your brain. And I'd forgotten about that. So thank you, Barbara. Now,
let me pause you for a second. I want to pause you for a second because we haven't actually interacted with the people who've tuned in. So, with the whole idea of gratitude and blessings, if you are on the live chat at the moment and you're tuning in, why don't you tell us about a blessing that you've learned, let's say, over the past week? Yeah? So just share that with us if you'd like to on the live chat. Who's next, Toria?
Sorry.
It's okay.
I'm back. The next person is Paul Hume. Someone else that's been on my podcast, shameless plug again. But keep mentioning
Funny.
Anyway, so Paul is going to be talking about how to develop your leadership in 3 ways. Take it away, Paul.
Hi everyone, Paul here. You might know me better as Teacher Paul 1978. I want to start by saying thank you to Evo Hannan for giving me this opportunity to share some practical ideas of how to develop your leadership experience. So I've been teaching for 13 years in various primary schools across London. And within the last year, I've taken on the role as deputy head of a small bilingual school. So a completely different experience for me. And I want to share 3 ideas that have really helped me to develop as a leader. They're not groundbreaking, but they've really helped me to grow. They've helped me to think, and they brought me to where I am today, with so much still left to learn, so much growth still to take place. So what are these 3 things? Well, the first one then would be just to build up your experience. You don't necessarily need to be leading on a core subject, like English and maths. Remember, first and foremost, you're leaders of children. So we need to act like that. Remember, there are other areas in the school that you could lead on. You might have the opportunity, if you're in the right school, to find something that you're passionate about. Not necessarily a subject, perhaps. It might just be, there might be a creative aspect in the school that you could lead on, or a sports aspect that you could lead on. The foundation subjects, of course. You know, I started off as an RE lead, then progressed to humanities coordinator, covering RE, history, geography. From there, I moved on to Key Stage 1 phase lead, and then from there to deputy head, with lots of other experiences in between. I proved myself as a deputy head in some ways in terms of taking on assessment. Assessment was something I was passionate about in the beginning, and working on areas of assessment. So working quite closely with the deputy heads, taking on the assessment where there wasn't someone to help necessarily with that in the schools that I worked in recently. That all helped to develop my experience in that subject area. You might have the opportunity to shadow a subject lead or assist a subject lead. There are other aspects such as people voice, restorative justice, well-being, which has come through to the fore recently in this recent pandemic. The need for mental health and well-being is paramount. So there might be an opportunity to lead on well-being. Other issues that have come through recently, diversity. Maybe that's an issue that you see that you could come to the fore in and lead on. And even, LGBTQ+. So find something, there'll be something that you can lead on that's not necessarily an obvious subject lead. It could just be an idea or a value that you see is that you could help develop in the school. The second thing that's really helped me was to find a leadership mentor. I'm someone that thrived from having a mentor when I did the GCP program back in 2006. I also thrived as a mentor to GTP students, PGCE students. And I knew that having someone there behind you just makes you feel confident in yourself. You've got someone there to bounce ideas off, ask questions of. They're there to help you reflect. They're there to help you reflect on the actions that you're trying to put in place. They also help you to put an action plan in place, perhaps, of things that you haven't thought about before. And questioning why you do things, what the impact is going to be from those actions that you're proposing. They also suggest books to read. But where did I find this mentor? Well, on Twitter, there is the Edu Mentoring program. It's the hashtag Edu Mentoring. There's a form to fill out. And then it wasn't that long that I waited before I was paired up with the most wonderful mentor that, joins the list of great mentors that I've had in my life. But this one is a leadership mentor specifically. And I've gotten so much already, okay, within just a few months. So I'd recommend a leadership mentor. And a third thing that's really helped me as a leader, and has come as a total surprise to me really, was actually just joining in on Twitter. I've had a Twitter account for a long time, never really used it, but that came through to the fore during lockdown. And within the space of a few months, I have built up such a community of, one, positivity and kindness. I mean, that to me would be enough. But the experience that people are sharing day in, day out, the ideas and the challenges we're giving each other, the questions that are being asked, have all helped me, really, have had a great impact on helping me to reflect as a practitioner, reflecting as a leader. And there are so many leadership groups out there. The one that I can think of just now, I'm a member of quite a lot of them, but it would be the SLT group. But there are so many, but how did I find them? Well, I just joined in. So on Mondays, for instance, I joined in with the Men Teach Primary, hashtag MTP Mondays. It's not just for men. On Tuesdays with Tiny Voice Tuesdays with Toria. Wednesday with Mr. Gorkop, the FB Wednesdays. Just interacting on there within a few weeks, I already had so many different connections I was making, and I just can't recommend it enough. Just join in, and before you know it, you will be surrounded by so many, and you'll have so many different opportunities. Other opportunities that come through MTP Mondays, the Men Teach Primaries. That's where I began writing my blogs. My blogs on my teaching experience, my blogs on my leadership journey, my blogs about taking time out when you need it to focus on your well-being, chasing after your first job as an NQT. It really helped me just to reflect. So you can check that blog out actually on my pinned tweet. It also opened the opportunity for me to record a podcast with the lovely Toria on my leadership journey. So there's so many different opportunities out there. With Evo Hannan just a couple of weeks ago, I was lucky to be a guest speaker on the Ed Talks Live. I mean, what an opportunity to share my experience, to share my ideas. I mean, who am I? But the opportunity was there, terrifying. But I mean, that maybe be the fourth thing. Find something that it scares you, just and do it. And there's so many of those opportunities on Twitter that come through. So I know it's not groundbreaking, but those three things have really helped me. And I hope that you can take something from that. So check out my blog or my pinned tweet. Check out those groups that I mentioned. Join in. Build up your experience. Find a leadership mentor. Go forth. And the world awaits. Thank you all. Bye.
Wow, what an inspiring message, and one to do with expanding your horizons, Toria, and creating connections, something both of us value, and developing opportunities and grasping them with both hands. Oh, are you on mute?
I was on mute. You missed something really vital there. I was trying to be really sensible and muting, but then I forget to unmute. But anyway, what I was going to say is Paul is one of the original creators of the Twitter drinks. That's not widely known either, which is another great place that people connect. So actually, he's right that what I have loved about Twitter is people developing their voice, but getting more confident. And as they've become more confident, so they've been willing to actually take further steps in like the real world as such. They've sort of tried out ideas, they've checked in with people, and then they've sort of taken those steps in the real world. And it is so, so vital. You know, people are finding their voice on Twitter, but then finding their voice out there, which can only help the children that we teach, because as Paul said, we are fundamentally the leaders of the children that we teach, which is vital.
Yeah, 100%, Toria. So thank you very much, Paul, not for just joining Toria, but for joining us on Talks Live as well, and I really do hope to catch up with you soon. Over to you, Toria.
Okay, so our next speaker is Cornell Ellis, who is talking again about but this time 3 ways to increase Black male representation in schools, something that I'm utterly passionate about. So over to you, Cornell.
Hello, my name is Cornell Ellis. I'm the co-founder and executive director of Brothers Liberating Our Communities out of Kansas City, Missouri in the United States. Our organization is a nonprofit aimed at increasing the number of Black males inside of education spaces, K through 12. We know that only 2% of teachers in America are Black men, over 85% are white women, and that is nowhere close to the representation that is equal. We also know that the achievement and opportunity gaps for students of color exist in the United States, and the coupling data that shows when you diversify teaching staffs, achievement improves for all students. Block believes that if we increase the number of Black male educators across the United States, we can achieve higher for all students. We do this in 3 different ways. So how do we keep Black men, or how do we increase Black men inside of K through 12 spaces? Get your notepads out. I got 3 ways. The first one is to recruit and reframe education for prospective education students. Block is now working on teaching high school juniors and seniors, teaching college freshmen and sophomores, and juniors and seniors that are thinking about changing their majors or going into education at the last minute, so that we can think about bringing more Black and brown educators into the actual hiring pool. Now, we have to do that by reframing education. A lot of students will tell you that there's something wrong with the world, or that they would like to do something to change it. Most of those students also couldn't tell you that teaching was the most effective way to do it. They don't see teaching as a revolutionary act. And Block is reframing what education looks like for high school juniors and seniors and college students, so that if they want to change the world, if they want to think about the world as a different place, then they can start doing that from the classroom. It's not just about regurgitating facts, it's about changing lives and making an impact on your community. Once we recruit more Black and brown educators by reframing what education looks like and what it means to be a teacher, then we have to start thinking about how can we retain those teachers and keep them inside of schools. Now, inside of retain, there are 3 more dots that you need to write down: connect, develop, and engage. Those are the 3 keys to retaining your Black male educators. The first is connect. Connect your Black male educators with another Black male educator in your network, or several Black educators in your network, to create professional learning groups, support groups, and networks that they can lean on each other and be able to have conversations that they may not be able to have with colleagues of a different ethnicity or a different culture. Block does that by providing social hours and networking opportunities for Black educators from around the city to be able to get to know each other, lean on one another, and use each other as learning references. The second point to retaining your Black male educators is to develop them. Oftentimes, Black educators leave professional development inside of schools and they don't feel filled. They don't feel like it was relevant, and they don't feel like it had anything to do with their identity or the identity of their students. Block provides affinity-based development specifically designed for Black and Brown teachers and the achievement of Black and Brown students. So Black men leave block development feeling that this development was designed for them and their struggles and their issues, and gave them really palpable solutions for them to take back to their classrooms. The third way that you want to retain your Black educators is through engaging them in the community. Community service, mentorship are such strong tools to gaining a foothold in the community, to where one feels that they have a sense of ownership in that community and they don't want to leave. I can't tell you how many times Block has had community events where my Black male educators are coming out and seeing their students, seeing their families, seeing their community in a different way, which gives them a vested interest in the community that they're working in and the students that they're investing their lives in. If you can get Black male educators to connect with each other, to develop, and to engage with the community, they will stay in teaching longer. Now, the third thing that Block does in order to increase the number of Black male educators is to advance careers. Block is working with partnerships and teaching professorial classes to be able to provide discounted rates for certification and continuing graduate degrees for Black male educators. We know that certification can be one of the biggest barriers to having Black men inside of education, and we know that we want to keep Black men in education for life. And so we have local universities providing discounted continuing education credits, and myself will be teaching some of those courses so that they have a culturally relevant teacher in the room to be able to dig into some of these real issues with. I've walked you through 3 ways to increase the number of Black males inside of schools. Recruit and reframe what education looks like. Retain those educators by connecting, developing, and engaging. And then advance those educators by connecting with local universities and making education a lifelong career. We know that when we increase the number of Black male educators across the United States, we increase achievement. My vision and Block's vision is that every student in the United States has at least one Black male educator over the course of their educational experience. That was not the case for me, and I hope that that will never be the case for another young man that looks like myself. Have a good day, and the block is hot.
Powerful words from Cornell. I think, although he was speaking from the lens of the States, Toria, this is something that needs to be more global, right?
Sorry, I'm not good at that. No, it really does need to be global. And what he's saying, you know, for it really powerful, actually. He said that as a Black male, he didn't have a Black male educator that he felt represented him. And, you know, it's something that I take for granted. I'm a white female. I've been taught by white people for, you know, as a child. It was just something that I took for granted. And what we need to remember, what I need to remember, is that is not how it is for so many children growing up, and they deserve to see people that represent them in education teaching them. And I think he made such vital points. And, you know, what an amazing world it would be in if children were truly represented educationally.
Yeah, 100%. And going back to what he said, as a child, it was no different for me at all. And I think, come back to his point, if you have students who can't necessarily feel they have a direct role model in the class, there's going to be some kind of discontinuum within their journey, because who are they looking up to? You know, who can they share those experiences with? So yeah, very, very powerful points there, Cornell. Thank you very much, and thank you for your work that you continue to do with the block. Looking forward to catching up with you soon. We're down to our very last presenter, Toria. You ready for this?
We are. And this is
This is cool.
Last but by no means least, we
Yeah.
have Michael Lipset, and he's talking about sound practice. Audio enriches, no, sorry, not that. Audio exercises for equity and education and design. This is me not wearing my glasses because I'm trying to look like, cool. And actually what I need to do is I need to hold my phone out there because I can't actually see what it's saying. So yes, audio exercises for equity in education and design. Over to you, Michael.
Hey there, my name is Michael Lipset. I am the Director of Social Impact at the High School for Recording Arts in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about the most recent project I completed, which is called Sound Practice. I did this work in conjunction with the K-12 lab at the D School in Stanford University, and I'm really excited about where it's gone and where we hope it will go. I'll tell you a little bit about it, and then I'll simply introduce you to the tools themselves. Sound Practice is a project that was originally conceived of between myself, Sam Seidel, who's the co-director of the K-12 lab, as well as Louis Montoya and Jessica Brown, both of whom are designers in the K-12 lab with a focus on racial equity. In considering the challenges of our time, the many pandemics we're facing, from racism at a systemic level to the housing crises to all of the things that folks who had historically been pushed to the margins now feel in even more pressing ways, as well as the changes that the COVID-19 pandemic have forced upon educators worldwide. We saw a need to design education tools that were available asynchronously, remotely, and would support us getting off of our screens more regularly. We, of course, wanted these tools to be rooted in social justice and racial equity as well. So if you go to k12lab.org/soundpractice, you'll find these tools and a little bit of information about them. Sound Practice, very briefly, is an experiment the K-12 lab launched to respond to two needs we were seeing and hearing from our friends across the K-12 sector. We heard a need for resources to help advance equity-centered design work, even as COVID-19 forced many of us to work remotely. We also heard a need for ways to spend less time on screens in an era where much of our professional and personal lives have been forced into a digital realm. Once we had produced the audio exercises themselves, we decided that it might be helpful to design a podcast around those exercises in conversation with those of us who were involved in the creation of the exercises, so that our listeners might gain some insight as to where we're coming from and what we were thinking throughout the creative process. One of the original tools that we created is called the Critical Lens Group Protocol. Now, the idea behind the Critical Lens Group Protocol is that groups of designers or educators can use this tool to gather on a weekly or monthly basis and go through the process of analyzing a prototype, a workshop, something that they're working on or retooling through an equity lens in order to determine whether or not that tool actually is serving the audience they intend for that tool to serve. Another tool we designed is called the Inequity Catcher. The Inequity Catcher is a series of questions that we've very carefully curated in order to support people in considering the ways in which what they're working on or what they may be thinking about on any given day relates to issues of equity. The next exercise we designed was the Barriers and Challenges to Equity Work exercise. This is an individual exercise, and it's meant to get people to think about what barriers and challenges they're facing in their own equity work. Then it offers an opportunity to reimagine those barriers and challenges through metaphor in order to reframe them in a way that perhaps we hope makes them more accessible and manageable. The last exercise we designed has become a user favorite. It's called the Equity Self-Care Embodied Exercise, and really is designed to allow people the opportunity to slow down and check in with their minds and bodies as both relate to the work of engaging in equity. I'm super excited to hear about all the ways educators and designers are using these tools. You can find me on Twitter at last name Lipset. You can find the High School for Recording Arts on Twitter at HSRA_MN. One of our alumni from the High School for Recording Arts is an incredible professional DJ now. His name is DJ Mickey Breeze, and he produced the theme song for Sound Practice. So please feel free to hit him up, engage with him socially, and you can also reach any of the other members of the Sound Practice team online as well. Feel free to poke around the K-12 Labs site for more equity-based materials, and reach out if you would like to be in touch. We're happy to continue the conversation and would love to know the ways in which Sound Practice is supporting your work.
Michael, what an innovative project. Just bringing together all these like different elements. Toria, what did you think of it?
Fascinating.
Yeah,
but
cool.
I've got to be honest and say I need to really unpick it further because I think that there is so much to it that a 5-minute video doesn't like capture everything that's there. And I think I've just got to spend time truly figuring out how I could use such a tool. Yeah,
100%. And I think with us having so many educators, or a diverse range of educators, they're highlighting tools that many of us in our regions probably would never have even heard of. They're developing tools for needs of things that we might not necessarily have right now in the classroom, but we more than likely will certainly have them in the near future. So it's been a great experience, Michael. Thank you very much for sharing that. We're coming to the end. Toria, give us a quick reflection of how you feel Ed Talk Sessions has gone.
Well, firstly, I've learned to unmute. That was vital. But no, I've absolutely loved it. As you know, I love hearing from so many people, and I love hearing from what I would call the quieter voices, the voices that we don't necessarily hear all the time. And it's been fabulous because we have had people from all around the world talking about such a diverse range of topics. Yeah. And I think everyone watching will pick up something from it and go, oh yes. And if they only change one thing today in what they're doing, that will be a good thing. So thank you to everyone that's put a video in, and we will be doing this again next season, won't we, Evo? Can't wait.
Yeah, we will be, and it will be probably mid-season again. Although I do seem to get the idea, Toria, with A, you being the creator of Tiny Voice Tuesday Unites, and B, both of us wanting to amplify educator voices globally. I don't know if we should have more than one per season. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking let's go for it. Let's do a couple.
Because,
I think it's fantastic. I really do. There are so many people out there that have so many wonderful, innovative things to say. And we are always learning. As Paul said, we're continually learning from each other. And so many people that we're talking today, we're talking about the power of connection. So I'm all for having more than one. And anyone watching that thinks, actually, do you know what? I've got something to say. Then get in touch with Evo or myself. I'm at Toria Claire on Twitter, and Evo is at Evo Hannan on Twitter. Get in touch with us, let us know, and we will absolutely have you on the next session.
Yeah, 100%. And then we've got episode 9 coming up.
I know.
Episode 9, let me just pop that up on the screen. Episode 9 is going to be a big one. It's going to be another global gathering. This is where we change the format of the show a little bit, and we have the staff room, more of the staff room with a greater voice, and we increase the number of polls to try and really dig a little bit deeper. The episode is all about student well-being. I know, Toria, you are a big advocate of well-being and student well-being. What are you going to be looking forward to in the next episode?
I think I'm always interested in new tips because sometimes I find I hear the same thing. And it's actually, what's new? What's different? Tell me something. It's usually something bizarre that you're doing in the classroom that you may not want to share because you think it's so bizarre that no one's going to think, oh my gosh. But actually, those are the things I'm always most fascinated in, because it is so important to ensure that our children, our students, learn to look after their well-being at a really young age. So yeah, I can't wait to hear what everyone has to say.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. There are actually a few spots for the show in the staff room. So if you're someone who is an advocate for student wellbeing, please feel free to drop myself a message or Toria. We seem to be working together as a team now on a lot of projects, which is really cool. I think it's time to wrap up. We're going to say thank you to our guests. I'm going to just run down the list, Toria. Thank you to Lucy Griffiths, Maria Richards, Hedreich Nichols, Amy Patel Hopkins, Ashley Green, Naomi Toland, Barbara Bray, Paul Hume, Cornell, Ellis, and Michael Lipset. And of course, thank you to my co-host, Toria Bono. I hope you've really enjoyed it. And
I have, I've loved it. And thanks for doing all the technicals, apart from the glitch no one saw, which we won't talk about. We won't mention the car crash that exists initially. Apart from that, it's all gone very smoothly, Evo.
It's gone good. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed having a co-host. I think we're going to have to do a few more of these, Toria. And we're going to be wishing everyone a nice weekend. Do you want to give a last message to everyone?
Have a great Sunday, everyone, and enjoy your Monday, whatever it brings you. And please remember to keep your well-being intact by doing all the wonderful things we've been told to. Have a great Sunday.
Absolutely, guys. Keep engaging, keep inspiring, take care of yourself and everybody else around you. We look forward to seeing you next week, guys. All the best.
Bye.